As Imperial concubine Wang stepped into the room, her eyes first met the king's solemn gaze, then landed on Dominic, who stood rigidly beside a screen. A faint smirk played on her lips. She believed she had already won, that the maid in an imperial palace's death had ruined Dominic's reputation forever. But when the king nodded at Dominic, the screen was pulled aside, revealing the dead maid in an imperial palace trembling, but very much alive. You said she jumped into the well. Imperial concubine Wang's voice cracked, her face paling. Dominic's voice was cold as ice. You planned to frame me for forcing her to suicide, didn't you? But she told us everything, how you paid her to lie, how you threatened her family to keep silent. The maid in an imperial palace fell to her knees, tears streaming. She gave me silver and promised to save my brother from debtors, but she also made me take a potion that made me dizzy. She said the prince would ruin me, and I had to pretend to jump into the well to protect my honor. Imperial concubine Wang staggered back, her earlier elegance shattered. But she wasn't done yet. This is all a lie. Why would I do such a thing? I've only ever cared for the king and the kingdom. Natalie stepped forward, holding up a small vial. Inside was the pill she'd secretly kept from Imperial concubine Wang. Let's talk about what's really in this. You've been feeding the king Suiying, a drug that makes him weak and dependent on your medicine, haven't you? Slowly, it drains his energy, makes him hallucinate, and keeps him from noticing your power grab. The king's face darkened. He trusted Imperial concubine Wang for years, yet she'd poisoned him to control the kingdom through his illness. Is this true? He demanded. Imperial concubine Wang's eyes flickered. For a moment, she seemed to consider denying it, but the maid in an imperial palace's testimony and Natalie's evidence were too strong. Yes, she snapped, her voice suddenly venomous. You loved the former queen more than anyone. Even after she died, you gave her son the crown prince title. What about my son, Wencheng? He's smarter, more ambitious. The kingdom needs a strong ruler, not a sentimental fool. Dominic's fists clenched. And my mother? Did you have a hand in her death too? Imperial concubine Wang laughed bitterly. She was too kind, too pure. When she fell ill after your birth, I saw my chance. I bribed her maid to add a slow poison to her medicine, just enough to make her weak, not enough to kill. But then she found out. One night, she confronted me in her chamber. I panicked and pushed her. She hit her head on the table and died. The room fell silent. The king closed his eyes, pain etched on his face. The woman he'd cherished for years had been a murderer all along. Natalie sighed. You thought killing the former queen would make you the king's favorite, and poisoning him would let you rule through your son. But power isn't just about scheming, it's about trust. And you've lost all of it. Before Imperial concubine Wang could retort, guards rushed in at the king's signal. She struggled, screaming, You'll regret this. Wencheng will take the throne and… Enough, the king said wearily. Lock her in the cold palace. Let her reflect on her crimes. As Imperial concubine Wang was dragged away, the king turned to Natalie and Dominic. I owe you both a debt. Natalie, your courage and wisdom saved my life and exposed the truth. And you, my son. He placed a hand on Dominic's shoulder. You've grown into a prince worthy of the crown. Forgive me for not seeing the truth sooner. That night, Natalie sat in her chamber, staring at the jade pendant she'd found in her belongings, the one the previous owner of her body had clung to. The pendant glowed faintly, and a voice echoed in her mind, Thank you for uncovering the truth. It was the former queen's spirit, finally at peace. The next day, the king announced Imperial concubine Wang's crimes and reinstated Dominic as the trusted crown prince. The queen, though innocent of murder, was stripped of her authority for neglecting Dominic. As for Natalie, the king offered her riches and a noble title, but she declined. I'm a healer and a traveler, she said with a smile. My place isn't in palaces. But I'll stay until your health improves. Those suing withdrawals won't be easy. Weeks passed. The king grew stronger under Natalie's care, and Dominic began preparing for the upcoming 5-year grand event, where warriors and scholars from all kingdoms would compete for the legendary Qianquan bag. Natalie, curious about the mysterious artifact, decided to join as a spectator, though Janine suspected she secretly wanted to try her luck in the trials. One evening, as Natalie walked in the Imperial Garden, Dominic approached her, a rare nervousness in his voice. "You know, without you, I might have lost everything: my title, my father's trust, even my life." Natalie grinned. "Don't get mushy on me, Prince. I did it for the adventure, and maybe to see you lose that stuffy, perfect prince act." Dominic laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Adventure, huh? Well, the grand event will be full of it. Monsters, treasures, and maybe a few surprises. Care to join me?" Natalie pretended to think, then nodded. "Only if you promise not to rescue me every 5 minutes. I can handle myself, you know." "Oh, I know," Dominic said, his eyes twinkling. "But that's part of the fun, watching you outsmart everyone, even monsters." As they walked toward the palace, Natalie felt a surge of excitement. Little did she know, across the border in the kingdom of Chu, a shadowy figure stared at a portrait of Natalie, his eyes burning with regret and determination. It was Aubrey, the Chu king who'd once cast Natalie into the cold palace. "I let you slip away once," he murmured. "I won't make that mistake again." In the quiet of her room, Natalie's pendant glowed once more. The former queen's voice whispered, "Beware the shadows from your past, and trust the one who sees your light."